Back in late 2018, YouTube sensation MrBeast bought advertisements in his hometown telling people to subscribe to PewDiePie. This sparked a movement that rapidly spread across the entire world and created factions among the YouTube atmosphere. Almost every large YouTuber pledged their support towards either behemoth, with most Western YouTubers showing allegiance towards PewDiePie, and most South Asian YouTubers showing the same towards T-Series. The battle for superiority between PewDiePie and T-Series grew to be so large that it shockingly made its way into real-life politics. As an example, during the 2019 India-Pakistan standoff, T-Series removed a plethora of Pakistani artists from their channel in order to not upset Indian viewers. This led to a march in Pakistan where protesters held up signs prompting people to unsubscribe from T-Series and to subscribe to PewDiePie. With CoComelon vs PewDiePie currently taking place, I was thinking of what the next sub-war would be, and I realized that the most likely candidate to oppose PewDiePie in the future would be MrBeast himself. The fact that MrBeast launched a worldwide campaign of immense magnitude to keep PewDiePie on top is why I find it ironic that MrBeast will eventually overtake PewDiePie himself one day. MrBeast is gaining about 100,000 subscribers every couple days, which amounts to around 36 million subscribers a year. While his sub count is growing at an exponential rate, that 36 million subs a year mark is the lowest estimate I could find, with the real number probably being around 44 million new subs by the end of 2021. According to Social Blade statistics, he's expected to eclipse PewDiePie in a mere 19 months, meaning that, soon, PewDiePie will be the second most subscribed individual creator on YouTube. MrBeast has even acknowledged that he'll probably reach 100 million subscribers and might even surpass PewDiePie in an interview with 100 Thieves, of which I will be playing that clip and analyzing his dialogue. God, my English should really be proud. But to quote Dream Was Taken, only a small percentage of my viewers are actually subscribed. It's free, and you can always change your mind. Anyways, let's see the clip.
Will you be bigger than PewDiePie one day?
And we'll see.
No, come on, don't give me the bullshit answer.
I want to get one subscriber behind him. Get me there. We'll see. We'll see what happens then. I don't know. I have a feeling we'll hit 100 million.
In the clip, MrBeast stated that he wants to get one subscriber right behind PewDiePie. This means that MrBeast definitely sees it as a realistic possibility for him to come within close proximity of PewDiePie. Along with that, he said, word for word, that he wants to hit 100 million subscribers. If this were to happen, then it's definitely possible that MrBeast will surpass PewDiePie, as PewDiePie's sub count has barely increased, while MrBeast is increasing extremely rapidly. Once MrBeast eventually reaches 100 million subscribers, PewDiePie's Reddit-fueled fandom will start to take notice of MrBeast's close proximity to striking PewDiePie off the throne. At this point, a sub-war would be called out, with the initial boundaries being drawn, with MrBeast on one side and PewDiePie on the other. I know someone's gonna comment under this video. MrBeast would call off the sub-war and would tell people to unsub to him so PewDiePie could remain number one, and while that is a possibility, I wouldn't bet on it. In that same interview I just showed you, MrBeast also stated that he would come to an arrangement with PewDiePie if he were to ever come close to knocking him down, to which I'll be playing that clip.
I want to get one subscriber right behind PewDiePie, then I'll fly to him and we'll have a chat and we'll see what happens.
The fact that MrBeast said, word for word, we'll have a chat and see what happens, means two things could happen if PewDiePie chooses to remain number one. The first is that MrBeast will go with what he said earlier, and that he'll tell people to unsub to him so that PewDiePie can remain number one. The second is what I'll go over in this video, and that he'll betray PewDiePie to become the largest individual content creator on YouTube for himself. To be honest, I wouldn't even expect this scenario to be half as big as the PewDiePie vs T-Series war, but for argument's sake, let's assume that it grows to be just as big and creates as much of a following as the PewDiePie vs T-Series war, with it encompassing YouTube politics until one side comes out dominant over the other. To begin, let's lay out the criteria for a victory scenario. A victory scenario for MrBeast would be if he permanently surpasses PewDiePie, and a victory scenario for PewDiePie is if he reaches, let's say, 175 million subscribers before MrBeast. Once this criteria is laid out, the official declaration of war would come in the form of PewDiePie making a diss track against MrBeast, as he did to commence war against T-Series and CoComelon. Once the song hits YouTube, the sub-war has officially begun, with Felix Jelberg trying to retain his position, and Jimmy Donaldson fighting to take that position for himself. Days after the sub-war begins, I would expect both MrBeast and PewDiePie to lose massive amounts of subscribers before they start gaining more in a week or so. This seems contradictory to what happened in the previous sub-war, but let me give my explanation as to why this will be the case for the first week or two of this sub-war. If you take a look at any little kid's list of YouTubers that they're subscribed to, you'll find that at least 75% of them are subbed to both MrBeast and PewDiePie. If you were to assume that most of them were to pledge their allegiance towards just one of these YouTube colossi, then they would undoubtedly unsubscribe from the other, causing massive amounts of subscriber losses for both sides until it subsides within a week. When it comes to who certain regional groups of people would support in this sub war, we can look to Google search and YouTube search trends for that answer. This map, pulled from YouTube Trends, shows the search popularity of certain keywords across the world, in this case, the red being PewDiePie and the blue being MrBeast. As you can see, MrBeast has a great deal of support in North America, South Asia, and Brazil. At the same time, PewDiePie's largest strongholds are mostly Eurocentric, along with some scattered support across South America and Oceania. This gives MrBeast an advantage, as he seems to be more popular in regions where YouTube is still in a stage of growth, such as Brazil, India, or Indonesia. And this is beneficial to him, as the majority of internet users and large PewDiePie strongholds such as Europe and Oceania have already been using YouTube for a great deal of time and have already developed their tastes on the platform. MrBeast, meanwhile, is able to pertain to regions where the general populace hasn't already fully developed their preferences as to who to watch on YouTube. Countries and regions such as Europe, Chile, Argentina, and Australia fit this criteria of areas in the world where most YouTube users have already found their preferences, which means that there's little room to grow for either behemoth in these regions. PewDiePie would realize that his support is mostly in regions where YouTube is already established, and would quickly make efforts towards advertising himself in growing regions where MrBeast has an edge. While PewDiePie might be able to halt MrBeast's advancements in Brazil and Indonesia by a tiny amount, I don't think he could create much support for himself in India. This is because of the aforementioned subwar between himself and T-Series, which would still be present in the minds of a great deal of Indian YouTube users, which is why I find it extremely difficult for PewDiePie to find support in India, as T-Series literally made use of Indian patriotism to remove PewDiePie from their home territory. While geography gives MrBeast an advantage, an ace PewDiePie has up his sleeve is his already established cult-like following. We all remember the Bro Army, a Reddit-fueled horde of teenagers who started watching PewDiePie during his rapid rise to stardom, and led the effort to get PewDiePie to 100 million subs before T-Series. If the MrBeast vs PewDiePie subwar were to be of equal magnitude as the one against T-Series, this group would undoubtedly spring to action. I could see posts being made on PewDiePie or teenager-oriented subreddits urging people to sub to PewDiePie to defend against MrBeast, or to create second accounts if they are already subbed to PewDiePie in order to artificially inflate his own sub count. The next action that both MrBeast and PewDiePie would try to do is win over the primary age demographic on YouTube: children. Both of these YouTube colossi have enough YouTube experience to know that what it really takes to bring up your sub count is to appeal to children. Little kids tend to watch a single video multiple times over, are more likely to comment, and, of course, are more inclined to sub to a channel. A study done by the Pew Research Center found that children between the ages of 5 through 12 are subscribed to an average of 43 channels on YouTube, while their older counterparts, meanwhile, have an average of 22 subscriptions. This data clearly shows that children are much more likely to sub to a content creator, meaning that they are the most fruitful demographic to go after on YouTube. With this in mind, I would expect PewDiePie to jokingly make satire videos that have little kid themes in the title and thumbnail in order to trick the algorithm into recommending them to little kids. A good example of this is a couple years back when he made this satire video titled "Playing Fortnite to Stop T-Series." I could see PewDiePie making similar kinds of joke videos with titles such as "Playing with Toys to Stop MrBeast." Meanwhile, MrBeast would be incorporating the battle for dominance between him and PewDiePie into his own videos as well. If you remember back in 2018, MrBeast made a video where he bought literally every single billboard in his hometown to promote PewDiePie against T-Series. In his own subwar against PewDiePie, since MrBeast would have hundreds of times more resources than in 2018, I could expect him to do something similar, except upscaled by a great degree. Instead of buying billboards in just one suburban town, I might expect MrBeast to buy commercials that air during large televised events such as the Super Bowl or even the Winter Olympics. I don't see PewDiePie being able to pull off such a massive stunt as big as advertising during the Olympics for one main reason. PewDiePie has far less resources than MrBeast. During the PewDiePie vs T-Series war, Felix was completely reliant on the resources of others to help power him through the war. He was reliant on Justin Roberts to advertise him in Times Square, Jaden Animations to get him into YouTube Rewind, etc. MrBeast, meanwhile, clearly has the resources to be able to pull off a stunt of that magnitude. The The MrBeast YouTube channel has over 30 people working for Jimmy, including cameramen, set designers, a producer, etc., to make high-budget videos comparable to movies. In fact, the true number of employees working for MrBeast might be around 50, because the actual amount is unknown without even counting the lawyers that work for him. Meanwhile, PewDiePie has just Felix and a couple of his editors making videos of him reacting to memes provided to him by teenagers wishing for a moment in the spotlight. This proves how MrBeast has the necessary means to pull off such a massive stunt, while PewDiePie is confined to YouTube in order to further his own sub count. Speaking of stunts, let's talk about how MrBeast would use his reputation as a philanthropist to his advantage. MrBeast probably remembers when his sub growth started to speed up exponentially when he did the Team Trees event, which is why he would likely do another charitable event to further his own sub count during the MrBeast vs PewDiePie sub war. When it comes to the type of charitable event that MrBeast would do, I'll be leaving that for the next video. This type of scenario is way too large to fit into a short YouTube video, which is why I'll be making a part 2 to the MrBeast vs PewDiePie sub war. Leave a comment below who you think should win the war, and make sure to like and subscribe.